One of the hardest things when you're building a business and getting starting is finding customers. Getting out there, finding the people who buy your product, will buy your service, and will use what you're doing. And that is the entire game when you're beginning. And even if you've been going for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, the game is still how do you build? How do you grow? How do you get more customers? And this episode is all about guerrilla marketing and alternate ways to get customers. The extraordinary belongs to those that create it. Rebelling against business plans and debt, rebelling against what society expects of us to build cool businesses, make money, have fun, and do good. Let's create something extraordinary together. Welcome to the Rebel Entrepreneur. I'm very excited about this show, which is 10 guerrilla ways to market your business. And I have two people with me who I've met recently. I went on their show, which is the Handyman Pro radio show. Welcome to the show, Larry and Jon.
Hey. Well, thanks for having us, Alan. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you're here. So glad you're here. And you both run handyman businesses and have a handyman radio show. Is that correct?
It is.
It is.
And we
yes,
do.
Sir.
So
we do. That's right.
Yeah. What is a handyman business?
A handyman business is we do basically, some of us call us contractors, but we have the ability to do a really vast number of different jobs in the home as far as home repair and maintenance go. And then we can do other construction type projects as well. So we spend my biggest customer job is a to-do list. So I do a ton of, this, I hang a ceiling fan, I replace a sink faucet, I do this, I do that, I do the next thing. So that's what I do as a handyman. John?
Yeah, same thing, Alan. We're out there and we do, like Larry said, a very diverse amount of things for our customers, and it can be just like Larry said. I mean, I go from plumbing to drywall to electrical to all kinds of different things, and I kind of look at what the focus is for me and what I'm good at, and go after those kind of jobs. But it's been very rewarding. And as Larry said, some people call us contractors, but we're really not. We're handymen, and we got our business off the ground. And what we're going to be talking about today was a big part of it.
I love that. And when you're talking, Larry and Jon, about a to-do list, I feel like maybe I should rebrand myself as a contractor every time I go back and see my mum, because that's what I get, is a giant to-do list of things to do around the house.
that's exactly what I think
of course. Yeah, that's exactly what it is, right? It's like, oh, here's my son. He knows how to do things. I'm going to have him do it.
Right.
Right? That's what it is,
So guerrilla marketing, just so everyone knows, what is this thing about? Like, guerrilla marketing is an advertisement or a marketing strategy in where you use surprise or unconventional ways of doing things to get customers to buy your product or your service. There was a famous book by J. Conrad Levinson, which was called Guerrilla Marketing. It's a great book full of ideas, but it's the idea of doing something slightly different, not your traditional marketing, to reach customers. Now, how did you both find out about guerrilla marketing? How do you use it? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
Go ahead, Larry.
All right. Well, first off, I read the Conrad Levinson books a long time ago. And I think I just came on it because I took about 10 of his ideas and just implemented. And I just went out and said, I'm going to do this, and this, and I'm going to do them really well. Right. And the things that I loved about the guerrilla marketing techniques, basically, the thing that appeals to me is that you use your brain, not your money, right? So you get everything to pull together and you get it to work where it all works in coordination. And the next thing you know, you have a system out there. And, Alan, we talk about systems in the world, in the business world a lot. But you get this marketing system out there and it just perpetuates itself. You don't have to, basically, John and I are both aviation guys. The the plane takes a lot of energy to get in the air, but once it's in the air, it takes very little energy to keep it going. And that's what that's what I've tried to do with my marketing. And John's done the same thing. So why I got involved with guerrilla marketing, because I really liked it. And it's all very low cost as well, or low cost, no cost. Could be a lot of no cost. So,
and that was exactly why I got into it. Was I don't want to spend a fortune on putting an advert in the paper that doesn't necessarily get returns. I want to find ways to reach customers that actually I enjoy doing, make them laugh, engage customers. I want to find something different to be able to connect with people and win customers. And I think I love the way you described it. It's about using your brain and creativity, not dollars or pounds. And it does not have to cost a lot of money to get your business in front of customers. That's definitely the idea. So before we dive in to this, there are some top line pieces we wanted to cover. And Larry, you wrote me a fantastic email with an outline for this. If you're listening to this and you haven't listened to episode 18 of season 2, which is the mysterious world of marketing, I had Katie Coombs on the show, one of the trainers at Rebel Business School, and we talked all through the very high-line pieces of marketing. And then Simon and I, my business partner, did episode 20, which was 10 ways to market your business for free. Those 2 episodes are going to give you a huge amount of ideas that this will build on. But from the very top line, Larry, Jon, where do we start thinking about marketing before we dive into the tools and the tactics?
Well, Alan, from my perspective, and once again, those episodes that you just outlined, that's probably a very good background. I have not listened to them, but I think from my perspective is really when I started off on this marketing adventure here was that I took stock in myself, okay, and basically asked myself a lot of questions. Who's my perfect customer? All the things that I'm sure that you've gone through. Where am I going to find that customer? What's the persona of that customer? That perfect target. And I would zoom in on that because the easiest part about finding some businesses that is, I always think about it as a target with the center of the target. And, I just asked myself a lot of these questions, and I felt like, I'd do a SWOT analysis, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and kind of figure out what my marketing was going to look like and where my strengths lie and where my weaknesses were and what threats that I could overcome and so on and so forth. So going on from there, I could put I could start to plan it out and then execute on those plans.
So I think something that Jon said there that is critical for everyone listening is know your audience. Because if you're anything like me and a little bit of a geek about business, you get excited about marketing ideas. And I get super excited and like, this marketing idea is so cool. I want to try it. But the marketing ideas do not matter if you don't know who your customer is and if it's targeted to them. So that's like the number one step is, who are you going to target? Who is your customer? So go back, listen to that marketing episode with Katie Coombs, episode 18. Start there with who is your customer. So once we've identified who's the customer, what's next, Larry?
You need to find out where your customers live. Quote, live is relative, right? So if you're going to market a local service, you literally need to know where they live, but you also need to know where they hang out. And hang out is a relative statement. So are they online? Are they on social media? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Do they take their kids to school? Do they go down to the local bar every Friday afternoon? Where do they actually go, right? I mean, where can you find them? Because then you can tailor your marketing plan and target in on those particular areas that you want to go into and take your tools that you have and apply them specifically to that. Your tools should pull together. I always like to say they should pull and work together, and then they form that basis. But it's correct. If you don't know who that customer is, you've got to know who the customer is or who you think the customer is. And customers change too. That's one thing that we've learned through time is that sometimes who you think your customer is isn't necessarily who your customer is. So Alan, you teach a lot about being flexible. You definitely have to be a little bit flexible and understand. John talks about SWOT analysis and see sometimes opportunities kind of come at you sideways. And so you just have to be heads up and be paying attention, back to using your brain a little bit and understanding, saying, why am I getting calls for this or calls or emails or texts or however you want to communicate to people. Why do I keep getting emails for this when I want to sell this? Well, change your marketing perspective and sell that. Sell them what they want. Right? I mean, it's kind of simple, right, Alan? It's like
sell them what they want.
Sell them what they want. But sometimes they come from other. You'll get your leads from other media. But anyway, that's what we do. That's what I do. And then I start targeting. So I find out where they are. Where are they? Do I find them on social? Do I find them? Do I have to go visit them? Do I go door to door? Do I send them direct mail? What sort of tools and things can I target for them for where they are? And again, it depends on the type of business you're doing. We do local business, so we tend to focus on geography quite a bit because we don't want to travel too far for a lot of reasons. Part of it is a marketing reason because we want to be able to respond quickly, which we can do when somebody's 2 miles away versus 40 miles away or something like that. So that's all kind of part of that mix as well. But that's what we do. That's what I do anyway.
So we've got know your target customer. We've got where do they hang out? Virtually, where do they live? Might be geography, but where physically are they, whether it's online or offline? And then we've got sort of pulling it all together into a marketing plan. Jon, how do you pull it all together? How do you make this stuff work together for you?
Well, after, I look at, I'm going to go back to the guerrilla marketing. To me is a little different than the marketing that I'm used to as a corporate guy. Okay. Corporate guys, we had a big marketing department, high priced people that were doing the big time marketing stuff, so on and so forth, and they would run the aerial bombardment campaign. Basically for me, guerrilla marketing became, hand to hand combat. And that was really what we're talking about here. For me in this business was, after we found the customers, and what they wanted and that perfect target for me and where they would hang out, I would then start to either, now we're getting down into the execution stage of using some of the tools that we have, going and, like brochures or cards that become a brochure. We'll talk about that in a minute, but it was also, looking for other things as well, people around that target. And I looked at it as people like I would partner up with in my case, and Larry's case as well, as we partner up with people like master plumbers and electricians, because they're in the same sandbox we are. And we know that they don't do everything, and they would call us to do work behind them. I'd also, and so they're in my target. Okay. They're working for those people. So that was an easy one for me. The other was to look around that perfect target, which in my case would be, the homeowners, and look for influencers. And the influencers would be, people that were kind of big in the community and that could introduce me to, a neighborhood. So, it was a combination of that is how I got these things off the ground. And I found these influencers, I kind of stumbled onto a couple of them, and then I sought out a couple of others, whether they be like networking groups, you name it, but they're the people that, have some name recognition in the community, or know a whole lot of people. They might be big time business people, and everybody knows them. And they can get your name out, whether it's on some kind of an app, an app like a Nextdoor app or something like that, where they can announce you. And a lot of these apps, you have to be careful. I'm not going to go all the way, through there, because they're like, well, you can't sell on there and so forth. But you use these influencers and stuff to get around that. And pretty soon my phone was ringing off the hook. And I actually had to tell a couple of these guys.
Interesting.
I actually had to tell a couple of these guys, I'm like, can you, you got to put it, the fire's too hot.
Yeah, stop. Stop.
So that was
too much.
And it became one of those things. And Larry will tell you as well, is that, in our business, once you get a certain amount of customers, it really is a round robin of a lot of activity. So taking on new business was, like, I can't take on new business kind of thing. So most of your customers are going to be like, what, the guy's nuts. But it's honestly, I just, didn't want to, I'm retired actually. And I just didn't want to grow my business to the point I'm going to hire people and so on and so forth. That's a whole nother story. But I think, you asked me a good question was, now that you've defined these things, how do you kick it off? And I would, that's what I did. I looked around and how do I get to those people in a nice way, in an easy way, and then I would start to hand out cards, and then, we can talk about all that kind of stuff in a minute here.
Well, let's dive straight into the tools and tactics then. Let's dive straight into the different guerrilla marketing methods. Number one,
yeah.
we're all laughing because we know where we're going.
Yeah.
John, can I tell? I'm going to tell. John has the best network marketing thing in the whole wide world. He goes and spends Friday and Saturday afternoons down at the local bar, and he hands out business cards like left and right when he is out having fun. Right, John? Is that what you're doing?
Well, Larry, it's not both those days. It might be almost 5 days.
Oh.
No, I'm just saying. But so, Alan, back to that question is, we have up here bar marketing, and it's kind of funny. This is no pun intended, but this is what we used to call in business where people would hang out, the watering hole. Okay, whether that was on trade rags or whatever, in a professional business, but in my business right now, it literally is the watering hole. And these are the people that are hanging out there, and they, it's in a great neighborhood, in a great area. So I'm like, you know what? And it's right down the road. So I'm going to test this out. So you got to start somewhere. That's been my philosophy all along. You got to start somewhere. So let's go for it. And I'd be in there and people would say, hey, what do you do? And I'd say, well, I'm a handyman. And it's not maybe the person that you're talking to, but there's always somebody listening. And I'd get like maybe two other people on the other side going, you're a handyman? You got cards with you? So I'd have all my cards with me. And, pretty soon it was, pretty soon it started to, escalate from there. And then I announced myself at the local hardware store, and I started to get business from them. People would come in and buy things and go, hey man, do you know anybody that can put this up for me? And they're like, yeah, here's cards, so that's kind of how I started.
I love that. So a question for you, because one of the things I've struggled with in the past, and I know people do, is being that person that tells people what they do in a bar. Because sometimes or in a coffee shop or in wherever.
Correct.
Sometimes you feel like you're pushing yourself on people. How did you get comfortable with this? Like, how do you even get that question to come up? Because it sounds like they're asking you, what do you do?
Like, it's amazing what enough scotch will do, Helen. It's amazing. It's just amazing.
Well, it's to the point that you when you're mingling, I'm pretty gregarious anyways, and I just would strike up a conversation with people, and it wasn't my intention to barge in and say, hey, I'm a handyman. That's not how I work. It was, and a lot of times I'd be there just to have fun. And, but the casual conversation would come up, and that's when you could assert yourself and say that, hey, I'm a handyman. You would hear conversations, and, you just start to talk, and all of a sudden it comes out. And like I said, it's not perhaps the person that you're exactly talking to right there, but it's the people that overhear you as well. So it's that third person it's like, a lady was sitting there one time, and she goes, you're a handyman? I just had a plumber out, and he left my wall completely open to get to the pipes, and he didn't know who to call to, replace all the wallboard. And I'm like, here's my card. When do you want to do it? And, so that started that. And then it's like one thing after another, and and she lived in like a multi family type of place, a townhome, and pretty soon one thing after another, and you kind of work your way through that area. So it kind of starts to start a fire. And I think that's, if there's one thing that I would take away, is that, you gotta create these embers, and it starts a fire. And you'd be surprised that, and when you go back to the beginning of our conversation, the marketing is when you have a service or a product that people are interested in, you want to buy, and it satisfies something that, you start to create that fire. And it's how it's,
I
you know,
love that.
it's all about, in this conversation, it's all about how you get to creating that ember, that fire. And that's, you know, I just found a couple of ways to do it.
And let's take bar marketing and just expand it, because I guess it's a kind of a funny term, but it could be you're in the coffee shop, it could
Right.
be it's wherever you are.
It's
Start
wherever
talking to
you are.
people,
Yeah.
it's making friends, and it could be the dog walker who's out doing their dog walking in the park and there's other owners there. And
Eh,
you just start talking to them, you make friends, you talk, and it's talking to the people around you.
In a
exactly. And
non-threatening way,
in a
and
non-threatening,
in a very non-threatening way.
but
So
I will tell you
that
that,
way, you
and
just go do it.
so from a dog walking perspective, people wouldn't know that you're walking, you do that for a living, or for a side gig or whatever you do it for. You know, you kind of have to have some ability to announce to everybody else that, you know, hey, this is just not my dog. This is a business for me. And matter of fact, what's kind of funny is one of the guys that really got me off the ground, his business was dog walking.
Mm.
He knew all these people. You see, he was an influencer in his community, so he introduced me to his customer base. So that was, you know,
Isn't that interesting?
yeah. So I really rode his kind of, I will say his coattails, at least in the list of suspects or prospects. And that, you know, as he sent out an email to all his customers and said, "Hey, I met this great guy who's a, you know, handyman. If you need it, you know, any services, so on and so forth."
Which I'd love to insert a new number two here, which let's segue into the partnering up, because we've sort of looked at bar marketing and talking to strangers, which I love. Number two, let's do partnering, because you spoke about master plumbers, you spoke about electricians, dog walkers, you even spoke about going into the local hardware store where people are buying this stuff but don't necessarily know how to install it. How do you find these partners that you can work with? You called it playing in the same sandbox.
Yeah, and okay, so the sandbox, as I describe it, and I've talked to Larry, we kind of use the same lingo on this, is that, you know, our sandbox is a house, you know, in our world. So who else is in our house, in our houses? And
Yeah.
that's,
Who
you know,
provides
plumbers,
services for
other,
home repairs and
right,
maintenance things like
whether it
that?
be exactly, whether it's other, you know, painters, plumbers, electricians,
Pest
and
control,
pest control. It
plumbing,
does, you know, you got to think outside the
lawn
box.
maintenance. Yeah,
And
it's
that,
on and on and on.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's what I always thought about. And I had a plumber come over to my house one time because I had some pretty sophisticated stuff that needed to be done, and I was like, I need a master plumber actually. And he came over, nice guy, and I had a target for these partners. I had a target, and Larry and I've talked about this a lot. The target is, it's a smaller company, the real go getters. It's not big electrical companies. It's not big plumbing companies, because they don't really, you know, really care about me. It's the mom and pop little guys, or the guys that are just getting off the grounds, the guys in their 30s that have escaped some of these bigger places and they're out on their own and they're hungry. And these were the guys that I called up, and I said, "Hey man, you were out at my place," or when they're out at my place, I'd say, "Hey, a handyman," and they're like, "You are," and you can't believe, you know, the synergy that comes across. They're like, "I'm always looking for guys to help me, you know, finish up a project," and you know, it's so. I'm not going to bore you with the rest of that conversation, but that's how I started to find them, and Larry and I both put like a target together of these guys that were hungry. So that meant that once they understood how, you know, professional that we were, it rolled into their professionalism as well. And nobody wants to be with somebody that's not like you, you know, that doesn't do the same level of work. Um, and you know, we'd call on each other, and I'd flip them business, then they'd flip me business. I'd flip them business, and they'd flip me business, you know. And pretty soon you can put things together where they're paying you to flip them business as a referral fee.
Which is a different income stream, but
Yeah.
it's all
So
it's
a whole
all it
nother
all
thing.
happens, and that happens in all the industries, Alan. I used to run a vending company, and we talked to cleaning companies because they sold it was business to business sales, and they talk to exactly the same people that we talk to. So when they would go in and they would say, the cleaning company's in there every day and they know the person really, really well, and if they could refer a good vending company, it was a huge benefit for them. It was of great importance. The key there, and John said this, you have to be as good or better than they are, because if you give a bad referral, you will kill yourself. So if you're going to do this kind of work, you need to inspect, like both John and I, we have specific people in our minds. Like we like painters, just for example. I can watch a painter prep a house, and the minute I watch him prep the house, I know whether he's somebody I'll refer or not. Because if he's not doing certain things, I'm not interested in giving him out as a referral. And conversely, I hope they're doing the same thing with us. And that applies to all the other trades. But in every industry, those things are out there and they apply. There's always somebody that's selling to the same customer that you are. The question is how do you get into their network to try and work that network with them? Most of the time it's based on just being friends with them. I mean, and just doing something for them and just being of value to them. So it's all really about, at the end of the day, it's about positive value. So.
Which my favourite example of this, we were at a Rebel Business School up near Liverpool, and there was a cake maker, there was an event planner, and there was a band. And all three of them sold to weddings.
Exactly.
Like, you three should work together. You should really work together.
Right.
Because if you can get a customer for one of you, it might be a customer for all three of you. And it was incredible how that pulled together. So we've got number 1, bar marketing. Number 2, partnering up. Let's move on to business cards. Now, controversially, I'm not a fan of business cards, but Larry, I think you love them, don't you?
Well, so they're really specific for particular businesses, right? So especially if you're doing local business or certain businesses, it's people like to have something. I make the cards, like for the handyman business, we're going to talk about handyman business or local businesses. Generally, you need some kind of a business card. And Levinson says that if you're going to take the time to make a business card, just don't put your name and your phone number and your contact information on there, right? You're paying for the printing, right? Make it into a brochure. Right. So in our case, like in the handyman business, it's really appropriate. It's good even in a dog walking business, it actually would be good. What do you actually do? So it's a mini brochure, right? You make it into a mini brochure. Our cards, John, I created the card. John copied my format almost identically, which is fine with me. And we have a list of services on the back. That's yeah, of course. He's looking over somebody's shoulder. There you go.
Yeah, you get told off for copying in school, but in business, it can work really well.
It works really, really well. If the big guys are doing it and it works, you should adopt it if you can afford it, right? So anyway, for us, we have a list of our services on the back. So we do carpentry, we do electric, we do plumbing, light. We always put light in there because it's not everything. But anyway, we have a whole kind of list of services. So somebody takes my card, and the other trick is that you have contact information on both sides of the card. With cell phones today, right? People might not take your card, but they will take a picture of it, right? So they take a picture of it and they have all of your information. Well, I watch people take a picture of the front of my card, then they flip it over and they go, "Oh, you do all this," and click, they take a picture of that, and the phone number's there and the web address is there. So those are kind of in the trenches, like tips on how to do a business card. But yeah, I like business cards because they're in my pocket. Like John says, when you go out to that bar or you go out in a social space, and say you go into a party, Alan, when you go to a party and there's 100 people there, are you going to remember everybody? No. If you hand them a business card, will they remember who you are?
Maybe. It depends how much I've been charming or whether they just throw it in the bin as soon as they've seen my face.
Well, you have to have the presentation that goes along with it. But you put your picture. See, my cards have my picture on them, so they actually can take the picture of they take the person to the conversation, and then they go. And if you put your face on there, especially with that look you just gave us over the camera, folks, you can't see that. But anyway, they would remember you. They will remember you. And that's a guerrilla technique, is it not? It's something different. It's not what everybody in the industry does. And John can attest to this. We see contractors' cards, just contractors in general, and it says, John Jones, Master Electrician. Phone number. or email address.
And
what does a master electrician do?
Exactly.
I don't know. They do electrical things.
Right.
What does that mean? Right.
And one last mistake people make with these cards is that in today's market, with our smartphones and things, when I was at these great big conferences in all over the United States with hundreds of thousands of people at these conferences and stuff like at McCormick Place and things, make sure that you can write on the card. Don't get these glossy cards. Number one. Number two is don't get a card that you can't scan. There's all kinds of applications for cell phones and things that for smartphones that I would scan everybody's card and it would go into my database, so I didn't have to type it in. And if you make it hard for that scanner to pick up everything, it's a waste. Most people are doing that these days because they can toss your card in the bin, but they'll put it in their contacts folder if they can scan it right in. So it's just another little trick.
I love that. Which actually, this brings us on to number 4, which I'm going to talk about QR codes for a second. I'd be interested to know if you've used these. I was recently in Bogota and we were out for breakfast, my wife and I, in a fantastic cafe. I'd eaten a lot of food, and there on the table in front of me was a small QR code that said free 7-day trial for the gym. And I was thinking, after that amount of food, I should probably go to the gym. The gym was right next door, and they were offering me a free trial, and I just had to scan the code, and it popped up and said, when do you want to book your first session? And I thought that was a brilliant way of getting this business that was next door to the cafe in front of a bunch of customers that were right there. And I guess the overall subject is not QR codes. It's how do you get your business in front of people at the right space while they might or might not be thinking about it. Have you ever used that kind of method, John, Larry?
Absolutely. It's on our Handyman Pro's radio show business card. There's a QR code that takes you straight to the show. So you click the QR code, it goes to the Apple player, and up it goes, and it starts running the latest episode, which happens to be a guy named Alan, by the way.
Yeah. and we have our QR code on the back of our handyman cards too. So it goes right to our website.
It takes us to the website. Yeah, it goes to the website. So there's a million ways to do it. Again, that's one of the reasons why I like that business card. You scan that QR code, it takes you to the complete listing of all the services that we offer, which is way too much for a business card. But it's on the website, and thus you can use it. We've taken those cards and John throws them out. We throw them out on the tables, and besides getting called litterers, people do use them and they actually scan them. They're like, oh, that's what that is, and it's pretty amazing. QR codes are something that, you just got to try it. You got to try it any way you can. Put it on the table, put it on your business card, put it on the side of your truck. I'm not so sure about the side of your truck, but I do see them on the sides of trucks and I see people scanning them. I don't know if it's a good idea when you're driving to do that, but anyway.
But I think, Alan, you bring up a great scenario there, because when you're sitting there, everybody's got a smartphone. I mean, I'm an older guy, but when these things came along, everybody loves fiddling with these things. So if you see a QR code, you're going to scan it. What the heck is that? What's their website look like? You're gonna do it. So why not do it? So Larry, what Larry just said is like, on the back of our cards for business, it's easy to do, and it's easy to go right to our website, and there it is, and there's all the information that you ever want to know. So it's a really good an advert for us.
Yeah, and there's QR code generators that are free, so it doesn't even cost you any money. All you have to do is print it, right? It's easy to do. It's really simple, actually. So, yeah. What about you, Alan? What are you putting them on?
The question that keeps coming to mind is, where do you stick it, your QR code? And it sounds like everywhere is the answer. For the people listening to this, like, we're up to number 4 with QR codes. I want you to see this as a buffet of ideas and think about which one you're going to have a go with. So take these ideas and go, actually, the bar marketing. Next time I go, I'm going to just ask people what they do, and they'll probably ask me back what I do. Or next time I'm going to try partnering up with these, and see this as a buffet of ideas that you can use to get your business out there for very, very low fees. The next one, number 5, is getting people to share what you do. And I've got a specific example of this, and I'd love to know what you think, Larry and John. And the example I've got, I went to a board games cafe with my friends. We sat there playing board games, and on the shelf behind me, there was a sign that said, and the sign was next to a large jar of sweets. And the sign said, if you check in on Facebook and share a picture of you and your friends playing games, you can help yourself to free sweets. And I thought to myself, I am easy to bribe. That's my first thought. I took the photo, I put it on Facebook, and the business was basically bribing me to tell all of my friends where I was and what I was doing. So I am promoting them for them, and all it cost them was some free sweets. Like this concept of getting people to share your work and share what you do. How have you used this thought in your businesses, Larry and John?
You want it, Johnny, or you want me to start?
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I mean, for us, we call it, that's a referral base. So if I do a really good job for somebody on their job, and trust me, there's a whole series of ways to get referrals, but basically, if I go into somebody's home, my goal is to leave it better than when I started, or better than when I came in, and that includes everything from cleaning to to making sure that when I walk in the room, I ask, do I take my shoes off, or do you want me to wear booties, or what is considerate of the people that we go into the home with, and effectively that gives referrals. If somebody in our business, it's specific in our business, people don't do that. They show up on time, right? I mean, I know it sounds simple, right? But if you show up to your appointment on time, and we give an actual time when we go to a job, we don't give we're going to be there between 8 and 4. Yes.
Yeah.
No, it's more like this. We're going to be there at 9 o'clock in the morning, and we're going to be there, until 5 or maybe 6. Just depends on the time. Just depends on the job, obviously. But this is a true story, Alan. I walked up to a door. It was 10 minutes to 9. I had a 9 o'clock appointment. I knock on the door. I rang the bell anyway. The person comes to the door, and they looked at me and they said, "What are you doing here?" I said, we have a 9. I look at my watch that I don't wear. I said, we have a 9 o'clock appointment. Do you want me to go back to the truck? And she said, no, no, come in, please. But I was expecting you here between 9:30 and 10 because all of you people come late.
All of you people.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Meaning contractors, right? All of you people come late. She was shocked. That woman's given me hundreds of referrals, right? Hundreds. I have not given anything away as far as a giveaway to bribe people in quite some time, but also in this business, doing a good job is as good as bribing somebody. And pay attention to the children, and make sure you take care of the dog as well. So if the dog likes you and they like their dog, they will like you. It's really it's a very little subtle nuance, but take care of the animals, take care of the children. If there's children, take care of be nice and respectful to the children. It's kind of simple stuff, but you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed. So that's done that. In other businesses in the past, I used to give away samples. I sold coffee when I had my vending company. We used to give away samples quite effectively, actually. It would get us in the door and give us a chance to present at that point. So we would send out free sample packs. And I like that idea. And then they, in turn, if you do a good job for them, they then will promote you, like actively promote you. I mean, John's talking about it in the bar marketing. He got in with this one guy. He was actively promoting. He finally had to tell the guy to slow down. We were getting too much work. We couldn't produce fast enough is what was happening. So, John, you have anything to add there, John?
No. I think you've got it covered. That kind of giveaway thing's a little difficult in this business, as well as the business that I was in, professional business, selling software for all those years, for close to 40 years. It's a little different. I understand where you're coming from though on this, to bribe you to on the Facebook example, but there was all kinds of things that we would do, and even now, I will give people a break. They're giving me referrals, and referrals are extremely powerful. So once you get in somewhere and you do a good job for them, whether you're a handyman like we are, or you're, a dog walker, or you're baker, or doesn't matter, you do a great job. People start to refer you out. I would say, people would come, hey, can you come over here and do this little thing? Well, yeah, man, I'm in the neighborhood. I'll just swing by. What do we owe you? No charge, no problem. So that's kind of what my little incentive is to keep the relationship going. And they're doing something for me. I'm doing something for them. They respect me as a professional, of course. So I'm not giving away everything, but there's a little give and take there, and we kind of understand each other, which is great.
John, what are you doing this afternoon? I need something done at my house.
Yeah, sorry, Larry.
That's a joke. Keep going. See, you see what he says? He says, no, I don't think so, Larry. Right?
Not for you, Larry. Yeah.
Not for me. Not for me. Right?
Yeah. No soup,
Anyone
no
else?
Soup for you.
Yeah.
No soup for you.
That's right. No soup for you. That's right.
So I think the general concept of this one, number 5, is how do you get people talking about what you do and sharing what you do? And whether it's a Facebook post, like you're a dog walker, take a picture of the dog going for a walk and tag the person. Whether it's a cake, like get a photo of that. I mean, I'm sure the contractors could get a photo with the customer and the new wall smiling. But something, or ask them for the referrals, ask them where to go. But it's
that
getting
and
the
reviews.
message out.
Reviews as well. Positive reviews matter. They actually really do. In any kind of personal services business, you want good reviews. And we don't bribe people for reviews either. We probably should, but I don't know. There's too many things to do.
Well, let's make that number 6, good reviews, because I actually think it is a critical part in modern day marketing, because people will Google you, they will search for you, and they will look up if you've done a good job.
Thank God I had my prison records expunged.
Yeah.
That's just all I'm going to say.
Man, that is true. Is once you get to that point of all these referrals and having good reviews, you're in. You're going to feel it. It's kind of like fishing. You're going to start to feel the tug at the end of the line. And that's what every business wants. Are we really selling? Are we really accomplishing something? And when people are starting to tug on the line, that you're doing some things right, and you need to take stock of what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. I kind of go back to the very beginning, and just write those things down and make sure that you continue to do the right things. It's kind of funny, I get and Larry gets so many personal referrals that those become our reviews. Now, I know a lot of your other listeners are more exposed to a Yelp and things like that, and that's really important. And because you're right, everybody does search for that, and I found a lot of people on Yelp, HVAC guys, heating, air conditioning guys, and things like that on Yelp, and so it is important, and that's, and you ask for that. That is the one thing. Okay, that's the one thing I always did in business, is that after I closed the deal, and not but pretty quick after that, was what'd you think about how the process went, the sales cycle? We went through your buying cycle, and would you say nice things? What would you say about us? Can I get a quote from you? I'd really like to be able to write down these quotes, and so on and so forth. That was the review. And pretty soon I had a whole book of these things. And when people would say, who else is using your product and your service? And I just open it up and say, all these people. And what did they say about you? You can call them. Here's the numbers. And here's what they're saying about me.
I love that. And just to add in right at the end, one place that you can get reviews, if you're thinking this is great, is Google My Business. Like, having your Google listening especially if you're a local business in an area, is an incredible way to get yourself up the Google rankings, because people will search on a map for Dog Walker, Idaho, or name the place. They will search for handyman and town. They will search for baker or cakes and town. There's an incredible place to put your reviews, and it'll help you get up the Google rankings. So number 6 is good reviews.
And speaking of reviews, Alan, I think that everybody should go to their podcast player and put a positive review out there for the Rebel Entrepreneur.
Thank you so much. Yes,
5 stars would be
good.
fabulous, folks. So just go out there and make sure that you give Alan a good review. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, it's interesting because I'm not actually that good at asking for myself, Larry and Jon. I'm good at asking for other people, but I'm not always good at asking for reviews for myself.
So you can send the check to no.
but yeah, just to close that one out, I think people miss a big opportunity if they don't come forth and ask for a little help, because people actually have come up to me and said, I would really like to put a great review of you on Yelp or on whatever, okay, on Nextdoor. Would you mind? And I, absolutely not, and I would ask people, because I'd say, well, what do you think after the job, right, Larry? After you get done working, you say you all cleaned up, everything's working, everything's beautiful. And then people say, wow, I really love it. Well, now you kind of just opened up a conversation there. And you kind of got to take advantage of the opportunity, and it's not hurting anybody. It's just being honest. Would you, boy, I really love that. And they start to fawn over this. And would you say positive things about me? Perfect. Great. And then they become a reference. I got my referrals, and then I have my reference accounts. So,
yep, it works.
And it's surprising how many people don't ask for that feedback after they've done whatever it is, the product or service. It's surprising.
Exactly my point.
So as I said, would you please leave a 5-star review on your podcast players?
I should probably ask what people think of the episode. That would be the first step.
Right, right.
So number 6. Good reviews. Let's move on to number 7, which I had entitled street marketing. And I guess that's whether it's flyers, posters, signs, banners, someone dressed up as a giant gorilla handing out things. A couple of examples that came to mind. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie It, but they did something quite fun. They spray painted some white text next to drains and then attached a red balloon next to it with a hashtag. That got some incredible attention for that movie. You can tell I love movies. The Red Sparrow movie, they sent out an army of spies all dressed in black with the red hair. They were all wearing wigs, and they took over the town and they stood out. It was incredible what they did to stand out. And I guess bringing it to a real small example of street marketing, I remember once I was walking through my hometown of Basingstoke, and there was a guy dressed in chef's whites with a tray of pizza. And he said to me in an Italian accent, would you like to try some pizza? And you can't really say no to that. I'm not going to reject pizza. I tried his pizza. It was phenomenal. He pointed to a restaurant round the corner. My wife and I ended up going there nearly every Saturday for about 2 years. We were creatures of habits with where we get our pizza. And he got us by street marketing. What are your thoughts on getting out there into the world?
It's really specific to great for local businesses in particular. If you're in front of if you're in front of your store, it's fantastic. We have yet to do that. John and I have talked about doing it. We call it walking and talking, where we were actually going to go knock doors in neighborhoods. It's street marketing, right?
Yes.
Or, and just going in and knocking doors. I decided against it because I think that our closing ratio would be too high, and we couldn't handle the work that we would generate out of it. So we decided against it because you can, as you know this, Alan, right? You can have the best marketing in the world, but if you can't deliver, it doesn't do you any good. So it actually is counterproductive. So we decided against doing that. But in other businesses, there's just a ton. All these going out of business sales that you see where they've got guys out standing on the street twirling signs and things. They don't do that because it doesn't work. They do that because it's highly effective. It's highly effective. The chef in selling the pizza in his chef's white is a marketing image of high quality product with a sample to boot to say, what do you think? Is it worth this chef's thing? And it led to you being a customer for 2 years. That's really strong. And I'm kind of assuming you moved after that. So that's the reason you still don't go there. But
he sold the restaurant to another family, and the pizza quality dived. We went back 2 or 3 times after it was sold, and the pizza was just not the same. It was so disappointing because I loved that place.
and that's kind of the point, right? Deliver that fantastic product, and people, once they come and try it, they'll come back, right? So it's always back to, do an outstanding job, as they say. Give more than what you originally planned on giving is another technique. Anyway, keep going. John, do you have anything on that?
Yeah.
On that giveaways? Have you ever done any of that?
Well, let me just say this, Alan, that from a street marketing perspective, it goes back to handing out, having a conversation, handing out cards. People are always asking me, I'll be walking through the neighborhood even, and people will say, "Hey, do you got I know that you're a handyman. Do you have a card on you?" Yep, right here. And I always carry one with me all the time. The other thing is that Larry, you're kind of selling yourself short. When Larry does a job, he's got a sign that he sticks out in the front yard while he's working at a house, and it advertises, Larry's handyman service. So that's another piece of street marketing. The other is, have a shirt with with your company name on it. That's street marketing. Now, let's go back to your dog walking example and the folks that listen to your, listen to your podcast and do dog walking. People don't know that you're in that business. You should have some kind of a shirt, while you're walking a dog. It's, Jane's dog walking service. Now everybody's looking, oh, that's what you do, so you're out in the park and people say, well, you know what, Mike, I'm going on vacation next week and I didn't know who to call. Now you know who to call. So, it's one of those things, instead of going up to everybody and saying, hey, I'm a dog walker. You kind of have your shirt on and people will see that, whether it's a t-shirt or a polo shirt or, whatever it might be. And, you'll get a lot of attention that way. So you kind of always, you're always
and they're
marketing.
Not terribly expensive, Alan.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not terribly expensive. I mean, you can have T-shirts made, one-off T-shirt for about $15. But if you look at the number of impressions, as they say in advertising, if you're wearing that shirt all the time, have a few more. Don't wear it all the time. Your numbers of impressions are huge. So it's kind of like one of those things where, again, if you're depending on the business, like again, if you're doing a local type service, you want to have a shirt out there. It's a free ad. And the impressions, it's hundreds and hundreds of impressions every time you walk down a street. It's just crazy. It's kind of like vehicle advertising, and you know this, but vehicles, you spend a little bit of money, but the average vehicle gets seen 50,000 times a day, and that's a huge number of impressions that people, and it gives you the impression of being a much larger company if you want that impression. Now, that's not always something you want, but it's just there's just a lot to be said for that. I forgot about my signs. John's right. I put signs out on the street, and it's just says another quality job by Handyman Services Service Group International, and it's got all the contact information on it. So if somebody drives by, they snap a picture of it with their cell phone, and they have my contact information. Understand. Here's a Guerilla tip, Alan, that I just think people forget. Understand everybody's got a camera with them. Everybody's got a camera. Everybody. So have your shirt, have your contact information on the back of your shirt, because they'll take a picture of your back. And you say, what are you doing? Well, I'm taking a picture of your contact information. Okay, hey, that's great. Here's my card. And you hand them the card that says the same thing, right? Everything pulls together. So it's but understand the power of those cameras. I mean, it's crazy. Everything. Everybody takes a picture of everything today. I mean, even old guys like John and I do. And
Larry was right. We were going to go out and we're going to go knock on doors, in some neighborhoods when we first started really getting this thing off the ground. And then pretty soon, we got a couple of customers. They were really keeping us busy. Then we're like, well, wait a minute. There's always a thing, just like in manufacturing. You've got You got capacity in production. If you're under capacity, your production's not going to be, there. So you got to watch. You got to watch you got to watch how much promised work you've got out there. So we kind of
Woo, woo.
So we don't have the capacity because we didn't want to start hiring people to grow the business. Now a lot of people, a lot of people would say, "Well, you guys are nuts and everything," but that's not, that's just not us. But there's a lot of folks out there to grow a business, and you're going to hit some of these sweet spots, and you need to constantly...
I am inspired by this. Sorry, I cut across you. I apologize, okay. John.
No, go ahead.
He's used to it. He works with me.
Yeah, here comes another jet, Larry. Duck.
It's coming. I'm telling you, they're in the pattern today. Today they're in the pattern, and they've got the pattern right over my mobile studio here. It's like, oh, you're kidding me. It's crazy.
I am inspired to go and replace my entire wardrobe with Rebel Entrepreneur t-shirts, which I need to create with some QR codes. I'm definitely inspired. One warning for the audience, just be careful when you're engaging in street tactics, as you are encroaching on public spaces. Like, people usually forgive this stuff if you're like putting your image or promotion on a public space, only if it's entertaining, temporary, or an improvement to the environment. Like, if you can make it fun and it's temporary, people will forgive it. If you are randomly tagging people's building in permanent paint, they will not be happy and it will cause problems. So just a small public service announcement and warning there on number 7. Let's bring us on to...
I was going to say, actually, yeah, and be careful if you're handing, like, one of my favorite pet peeves is, and again, this gets back to my philosophy, is that you're going to leave somebody's home better than when you left it. Don't, like forever, there's people in my neighborhood that drive by and they take a plastic bag with a few stones in it and they throw their business card on the ground, and they do that because they can't put it in the post office. All right, to me, that's litter, and it really annoys me. It's an instant no for me. So same things with flyers. If you think you're going to take a flyer and go stick it on everybody's windshield, just understand that some people think of that as a very, very negative thing, and you want to be careful. And those negative things work against you just as well as the positive things work for you. So you just want to be mindful of the particular audience that you're hitting, and what are their concerns. Do they do that? And for me, if I'm going to do a landscaper, how about you come talk to me? Don't just throw it out on my lawn. Even if it needs to be cut, it's still not a good idea. So anyway, sorry, I digress.
So that's number 7, street marketing. Let's bring us to number 8, experiential marketing. How do you get your customers to experience what you do? And like, we talked on this podcast before about examples of like free Reiki samples of game companies who put up stands so that people can play their games. I used to give away free sessions on my presentation skills trainings to companies that were big enough to get them to experience. But experiential marketing is, how do you get people to experience what you do before they buy it?
Well, let me address that. For me, here's how I can upsell on that, because I usually will get into somebody's house on another job. Let's say I'm replacing a faucet, and I can create a visual. I can have them visualize what a new chandelier is going to look like. They're thinking about putting a new light in, a new chandelier, some, recessed lights and, whatever. And they're like, well, I need some more light here. And I start to paint the picture and give a little visualization. Wouldn't it be nice? You can get that chandelier, and wouldn't it be nice just to hang over there? Can you imagine if that thing, next month, if that was hanging over there, how nice that would be? And they're like, man, can you do that? Oh yeah, I can do that. And, go pick out your chandelier, but that's the kind of thing, that's the kind of thing is that, what I would do. And now if somebody's just talking to me and I haven't been in there, I think it's the conviction of being able to do that job, to explain to them how that job is going to go down, basically paint them a picture of exactly what I would be doing, and just have them, step through it. It's not a hard sell. It's just helping them understand how I am going to go about the work. And I will tell people, when they ask me to do a job, I will let people know that I'm going to walk you through exactly what I'm going to do, so they have an expectation of the process and the length of time it might take me to do this, just so that we're both on the same page. And that way neither side gets, sideways with each other. So that's kind of it. And I understand this question from a hard product type of, if you're selling, pretzels, or you're selling, I don't know what, lamps or whatever. But how do you create this environment to actually have somebody visualize what this product's going to be like for them using it day in and day out, or be inside your house and things like that. And I think it's always been able to, paint that picture of what that's going to be like.
Or if you were selling a card game or a board game, why didn't you find the local board games clubs, the local cafes? Go and get people to experience what you're doing. And it's all about getting people to experience it so that they know whether they like it. And if they experience it, they're far more likely to buy it afterwards.
Yes.
So that's number 8, experience.
Yes, and just to close that off, and I think that's what I think, in a roundabout way, that's what I was saying, is that if I get into somebody's house, and I do something for them, let's say they've already experienced how I do work. They experience who I am, my attitude, what Larry was saying earlier, leaving their place cleaner than it was. So they're getting that good feeling about it. So doing more with me is easy then at that point.
I love that. Which brings us on to number 9, which is event ambush. Which I love this. It sounds very guerrilla, the event ambush. But the idea is, figure out what events your customers go to. And there are events for every type of business, every type of industry all around the world. And then show up and take it over. And you can even do this virtually. So to give you a virtual event ambush idea, my business partner Simon and I sold to housing associations in the UK, and they would have the annual conference for housing associations. And every year they would share the organization was called the National Federation of Housing Associations, the NatFed, and they would have NatFed 20 as their hashtag for that year's conference. And Simon and I would go online. We wouldn't even go to the event. We would do this in our underwear at home. We would go in line, find the hashtag, and you can almost hijack the conversations. You can chat to the people. You can ambush the event. You can share great content, and you can go where your customers are. And I think that's the key bit, is going where your customers are. And there is a conference, an exhibition, an event for everything you could imagine. All you've got to do is get creative, find it, and ambush it.
Yes. we've done, John and I have done that at home shows. We've gone into home shows where we and done that kind of thing. Not all the time, but since COVID, we haven't been able to. But anyway,
I would say,
go ahead,
I would say this, Al, and you're exactly right. Ambush these things, and here's what I do. It's kind of funny on a, now I'll do it on a Twitter, and it'll be a hashtag, and I'll look for events that are trending, and then I'll introduce one of our Handyman podcast shows into this large stream and start to take the conversation over. And they're talking about all kinds of other things. But, pretty soon it's like, hey, what's everybody doing this weekend? Because if you're thinking about, putting on a new faucet, you need to check out this, XYZ episode of, and everybody comes, now it's starting to get all kinds of impressions coming back from the tweet, and people start to talk about, I got a lamp to, a new lamp to fix, or I've got this to do, and I've got a faucet. So, it's kind of funny. And unless you try that, you don't know what the reaction is. and it doesn't cost
And
anything
that's a
to
lot
try
of
it.
these methods. You've got to try it. Yeah,
It
just get out
Doesn't
there.
cost
Just have a
anything.
go.
Just do it. Yeah.
And
just
and
do
like
it.
Larry said, we're really, you can tell that we're pretty gregarious guys. And we go out to if we go out to an event, we're going to take it over in a good way. We're going to start.
It's what we do.
We're going to start to talk about handyman work, whether it's wherever these events might be. And it's, like going out to some of these conferences and things like that. There's all kinds of things that you can do. User groups, church events, whatever it might be. And, pretty soon you'll have.
Use your brain. Use your brain and be creative and figure it out. It's that simple. There's something you can do. There's something. So.
And start to twist the conversation.
So
in that
the
direction.
question.
Yeah.
Oh, a little conversation twist is always fun. So the question for everyone listening to this is, what events do your customers go to? Make a big list, look it up, Google it, make a giant list of events of where your customers go, and then start to think, how could I ambush them? How could I take them over? How can I get out there? How can I get in front of those customers? So that's number 9, the event ambush. And then finally, this is one, I was so glad you put this on the list, Larry. This is one of my favorites. This is the last one for today's show. It is thank you cards. Why did you put thank you cards on the list?
So, can I ask you a question, Alan? When is the last time? Yeah, I'm going to anyway. Tough. I'm ambushing this interview. I'm ambushing this interview right now.
Heads up.
This is in action right now. Heads up in action. Yeah, here we go. Alan, when is the last time, besides the fact that you're kind of nomadic, so you're hard to pin down, but when's the last time you received a handwritten thank you note?
Yeah, it was probably a couple of years ago when I was living in Basingstoke full time. Yeah, it's been a while.
It's been a while, and the reason that I place it that way, now I know you're nomadic because you're living all over the world and all that, and I understand that. But for most people that don't that, I'm going to ask the audience as they're listening to us, when is the last time you received a handwritten thank you note? I'm not talking about an email thank you. I'm talking about an actual card that costs you how much is it today? 51 cents to send a thing out. And I already know the answer to that. And the answer is 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, right? When's the last time? And so when you send that, plus you drop your business card that has your mini brochure on it in there into the thank you card. Hey, thank you so much. And you do the proper phraseology. Hey, we thank you so much for taking advantage of our service. We really appreciate the opportunity. I thought the new ceiling fan looked fantastic. Here's a picture. Here's where we put it out. You can put the link to your Facebook page or whatever you want to do, how you're going to integrate your other things, but and send it off and just say, thanks. If there's anything else we can do for you in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out. It's really about that simple. But the last time you received one, you want to talk about being memorable. You do it enough, you will be overrun with business. It takes a while, but you'll be overrun with business. Thank you is the 2 most important words in the language in the English language for gratitude, right? It's thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for this fabulous thing. Thank you for helping me achieve my goals, whatever it is that your particular, what you're selling. Thank you for taking such great care of my dog. My dog comes back from his walks and he's just loving it. And the thank you note could be, something that happened on the walk. He saw this squirrel and really wanted to go after it or something, and something that the people will relate to. But there's a million different ways to do it. Just use it. Take the time. It's all about time and creativity. So that's why I put it there.
And Larry, that's awesome because and it's kind of funny this came up here is that I'm looking at my old stack. I've got about 15 thank you cards left. When I was in business, every time I closed a deal, I would send a handwritten thank you to, the company that just bought my product, whether it was, they just spent $700,000 with me or whatever it might be, I'd send, the president and the vice president a thank you note. And don't think, 80% of my competition doesn't do that. Okay. They would, 80% of the other salespeople would not do that. and that means a great deal. Now I'm going to go back to referrals. Who do you think they're going to refer, to their buddies down at the gym when they're there or at the country club? They're going to say, hey, you need to talk to John over at the XYZ software company. If you guys want some software, because he's going to remember that. And I do that with my customers now. I'll send them, Christmas cards or holiday cards, and things like that, handwritten. And it goes a long way, and you are memorable. Most people don't ever get a thank you card, and it's one of those things where it's easy to overlook, but boy, it really is a strength.
It does make a difference. The key here is handwritten and physical. It is easy to send a generic thank you email, and everyone does it, and it has very little value. If you want to stand out, you have to do it differently, and people actually have to feel as though you mean it. That's the piece. They have to actually feel as though you mean thank you. If they mean it, they feel it, it's unbelievable where it leads. So number 10 is thank you cards. Larry and Jon, that's a huge list. There's so many ideas for people to take away. What are your final thoughts? Let's start with Jon. What's your final thoughts for people on guerrilla marketing and what they need to do?
Going through this long list, and there's a jillion other ones that you can come up with. I think for me, I try to stay. I try to stay very focused in my activities of keeping track of what works and what doesn't work, and using a spreadsheet, using a tool like that. So when you try these things, go ahead and put down on there what works, and what doesn't, and what was the result. How many callbacks did you get? How many, if you did this, what was the result of that? I'm going to put a little twist on it. Then, what was that? And you kind of refine it down to something that really works within your industry. For the dog walker example, again, might be, what, after I wore that t-shirt or that polo shirt with my name and a dog walker, boy, I start to get a whole bunch of people inquiring at the park. Or, what, I made friends down at the no-kill shelter. I made friends at the local pet place, and they referred me out. It's that kind of stuff, to do a marketing on something like that, where, I'm getting exposure, in a nice way. I'm making friends. And, now I'm really starting, my name is really starting to get around. And so you really kind of have you're really starting to brand yourself. You've got Jen's dog walking service, but you're starting to brand it. It's starting to come over and over and over again with, your little dog logo or whatever it is, and, you're getting back with a direct response, and you're adding in this digital marketing, and pretty soon you're creating this synergy that's going on out there. So, but I like to keep track of things that work and don't work. And just try to stay organized, because if you don't stay organized, you're going to lose track of this. Once again, Larry, we're aviation guys. You might get this plane off the ground, but it's not going to fly very long if you lose track of what is happening, because you're not going to know. It's going to be like a big desk piled up with papers, and you don't know what's going on. So, that's kind of the way I like to work. And Larry, I know that I might kind of bug you with too many spreadsheets and things that I keep track of, but when you ask me a question, it's at my fingertips of what's going on. So anyways, that's kind of my answer there, Alan.
I love that, Jon. Test and measure. So run a bunch of mini experiments, work out what works, and then do more of that. That is fantastic advice. Larry, closing thoughts about guerrilla marketing.
Yeah, it's basically gets back to use your brain and be creative, and pull in one direction and understand your customer. So if you have that ideal customer in line and you know where they are, go out and create a positive image for yourself in front of those people. And don't be fake too, by the way. You need to be totally genuine, particularly on small, individual service type businesses. You want to be very, very honest with people. We kind of laugh. We talk to a lot of handymen in the world, and we talk about the power of saying no. And it's one of those things where we have to be honest and genuine. And there are jobs that we just say no to because we don't have the skills or we don't have the time or perhaps a piece of equipment or any number of a million different reasons. But get out there and then also stay after it. You cannot, this is not something that just happens. You don't do it once. You have to continually do it on an ongoing basis. One other thing is, don't choose too many items to do it. Pick out, I don't know, 10 is a lot if you really think about it. If you're doing 10 marketing items, you really that's a lot on your plate. And you know, that can create more business than you can handle. So it's just, it's a mix, right? It's all about staying in the mix. So those are my final thoughts on that.
I love that.
And now it's happy hour and back to marketing.
It's back to marketing. John's headed down. He's going to be handing out cards this afternoon. And if you're lucky, folks, he might even buy you a free drink. That's all I'm saying.
No addresses, Larry.
I was going to give it out, Johnny. I was going to give it out.
So they talking about giving it out, the Handyman Pro radio show. What is it, and where do people find out more about your radio show, Larry and Jon?
So I'm going to John and I started this podcast called the Handyman Pros Radio Show, and we started this podcast largely, I'm going to give the thumbnail version, to teach people how to maintain their homes and basically to work ourselves out of a job for certain items, right? There's a lot of things that people should be doing for yourself. And Alan, as you know, I'm a member of the FI community, and John's actually in the FI community too. He just doesn't call himself that. But there's just certain things that folks don't pay people to change your air filters. Let me teach you how to do it. And so this is what we talk about on the Handyman Pros Radio Show. And we talk about that, how to hire contractors. We've actually got quite a large number of almost 200, right, John?
Yes.
Episodes right now. And it's just, it's tips and tricks and how to do things. And occasionally you'll learn things about like new toilets on the space shuttle and stuff like that. There's some interesting different things that we do as well. We do, but that's what we do. John, add anything in there I left off.
Yeah, I mean, our show is really tuned into the homeowner as well as the other handymen out there. And I'll echo everything that Larry just said. And like we do 2 shows. We do 2 shows a week, and it's very we want to be very informative. As the listeners can tell that we're active in the handyman business. We're just not sitting back doing a podcast where we're not actually doing things. We're actually doing those. We're actually 2 professional handymen doing these. We're active in that thing. And we're really focused on home improvement, maintenance, and repair. So there's a lot of other podcasts out there that do things for renovations and remodels, and we talk about that as well. But we're really into some improvements and maintenance and repairs. So it's really geared towards that. And you'll learn a lot from listening to us, because your house is one of your, if not the biggest investment that you have. And it's important to keep up with it. And that's what we kind of keep pounding, that over and over again. And, ongoing maintenance is a big thing. And then when things do go sideways and break, look us up and we'll be happy to help you how you fix it on the show. So,
well, yeah, our goal, as we say, our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation on your home maintenance and repair. And that is really the core of what the show is about. So it's helping you save time, money, and aggravation. All those 3 things are interrelated when you own a home. But there's just a lot of little things that we teach you. We do it. We're aviation guys. We're big on checklists and stuff like that. And then I own rental properties, so we've done some shows on rental properties and things like that. So it's sort of broad. We try to be entertaining too. They let us out every once in a while, just to do things.
We've been accused of doing some cringy jokes and things like that, but it's like we like to have a good time.
So go to your favorite podcast app and type in Handyman Pro Radio Show, and you can find more of the fabulous Larry and Jon. Larry, Jon, thank you so much for the energy, the ideas, and the creativity you've brought to our chat. I really appreciate it today. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
It was a pleasure.
And if you're listening to this, what I want you to do is take one or at a maximum two of these ideas and go and have a go. Test. The only way to know if any of this works is to test it. So implement something for your business today, tomorrow, make it happen, and then measure to see what the outcomes are. The more marketing you do, the more you put your business out there, the more you get in front of the right customers, the more sales you will start to make. Good luck. Go make it happen. Get creative and test and measure.
And now, a word from our sponsors, the Rebel Business School. Have you ever thought about starting your business? Have you ever actually wanted to attend one of the Rebel Business School courses that Alan and Simon brilliantly created all those years ago? Well, I'm here to tell you that we have a number of exciting events coming up all across the UK and in other parts of the world. Now listen closely. You might recognise these places, you might live in them, or you might know somebody who does. We're going to be coming to Bristol on the 20th of June. We're going to be coming to Enfield on the 4th of July. We're going to be in Doncaster on the 4th of July. We're going to be in Camden on the 11th of July. We're going to be in South Kilburn also on the 11th of July. We're going to be in Westminster on the 1st of August. Now, if you don't live in any of those, please do not panic, because we do have an online course which is available to absolutely anybody starting in the 5th of September. Now, if you're interested and you want to get involved, please go to www.therebelschool.com/events and you'll be able to find all of our upcoming events and more that you can tune into, get involved in, and really get your business kickstarted and off the ground quickly. See you there.
You can have any life you want to. Choose to build something cool. Choose to take action. Choose to work to make your dreams become reality. Stand out. Be different. Be yourself. Be a rebel entrepreneur.